Good afternoon, everyone. Please confirm if you can hear me, please. Good afternoon.
Good afternoon, sir.
Good afternoon, everyone.
Afternoon.
Okay. Please, you can remind me. Please, where did you stop in our last class, please? Where did we stop in our previous lecture? Please, can someone give us a quick recap on where we stop and the question we're trying to solve? CVP. Am I the only one in this class? Please, where did we stop in our last class?
Good afternoon, sir.
Good afternoon.
Yeah, we stop at multiple CVP, and you gave us some assignment. So that's where we stop. Multiple CVP.
Okay. So I think we're trying to solve question on one of the multiple CVP. Let me quickly go back to that where we stopped in our last class, right? So okay. Okay. So before we let's quickly complete this question here. Right. But then we need to establish, like, we need to have like 5-minute discussion. Now, class, we're all professional colleagues, and I'm very sure that some of you would have written performance management for, like, let me say, once. You've written it before 2 times or 3, like that. Now, if you want to learn something, you have to unlearn and relearn. And kudos to some of you that usually pay attention to details, especially going back to the YouTube and rewatch the video and use that video to come up with something. I must commend some of you, right, who does that. Like, I must commend some of you, right? Because I've seen the suggested solution, and someone is still asking that, how is he going to calculate this? Why, when we have done a similar something before? Please, what will take you to go back to the YouTube and check again that, okay, these are the steps in calculating this requirement. And don't forget, I said something that it is not all about covering the whole syllabus. You can still cover the whole syllabus, still fail. It is not. It is not. You have to follow the principle. And I try as much as possible to bring out this principle by telling you that you need to understand the requirement of every question. So once you understand the requirement, you can solve that question. right? I just glanced through one of the suggested solution because I've been having a sleepless night for like let's say since the beginning of the diet, right? If I tell most of you today, if I'm saying I'm saying it today that today's class that we want to do on limiting factor, right? It is just now I just look at what I have. Like I just use 5 minutes to prepare for limiting factor, right? I just use 5 minutes to prepare for limiting factor. Because I have the math. I was like, okay, limiting factor, okay, we move. So what does that mean? It means that you have to understand something before you say you want to solve. Now, I quickly glanced through some of the suggested solution, and someone did a very good job. Like I didn't have time to check for others. Of course, I will do that. Like Rejoice, she I was like, oh, she has paid attention to details that this requirement to you can see it in the question 10 of the previous question sorting. Then she applied the principle. So please, anytime I give you something to do, always go back to the video. First, understand the principle and also the requirements. Remember, you cannot do like you want to do it anyhow. You want them to be telling you everything every time. No, now it's not possible. Where you can get all this information. The only thing you need to do is to solve and send. Let's see what you have. Then if it is not correct, I will tell you that I may not respond immediately. I will tell you that, okay, this is not correct. Change it to this. This is correct. This is not correct. So please, I'm begging every one of you, whenever assignment is being given to you, take your time first. Go back to the video, watch it. Then, now, sit down and ask yourself, what is the suggested solution to this question? Right? No, the requirement, sorry, to this question. Right? Most of the class I will come for today in performance management, I don't prepare more than 10 minutes, 20 minutes because I don't have that time, luxury of time to be. What did I want to check in performance management? Right? Just 10 minutes, 5 minutes. I just have the opportunity to be taking you performance management. Most of you can even do better. Right? Most of you can do better. I just have the opportunity. Right? So please, let's obey the rule of the game. Principle. Principle. It is not by covering the syllabus. Understand the principle. Even if you want to cover the syllabus, but understand the principle behind it. I always believe in principle, and that is what has been keeping me going. What keeps me going is principle. Is this FM? Is it SFM? Is it case? Is principle. You have to have a principle book. You need to have a principle book. You don't need to do much. You just look at it. Okay, what is the principle? Look at it here. It's limiting factor. I have it here. Okay. Limiting factor. What are the principle? Okay, shadow price. Okay, this is it. This is it. Then you cannot bring any question because I understand the principle. You can also understand the what? The principle. Thank you. Now, last week, right, we're trying to solve a question under the cost volume profit analysis. And we're like, if there's a change in the mix, so what will be the revised BEP? And I said that to save yourself, you can decide to, since there's also a revised BEP, you can decide to look for the value and the unit. And I say for me, I will just, what I will just do is to look for the revised BEP in what? In value. Then we decide to change the formula because it is revised BEP in what? In value. And if you want to calculate that, we will have the BEP in value equals to fixed cost divided by the weighted average. That is the weighted average of sales in value that will multiply by the contribution margin ratio. Then, in that particular question, the question just said if refer to the original data, original budgeted, if the sales mixed changes. Class, that is why I said sometimes in CVP is, once you understand, you have to understand first, understand the requirements. Now, the question says that if the sales mix changes, does the question says the CMR will also change as a result of this? No. The question says refer to original budgeted. If the sales mix changes, just the sales mix. So we need to just follow the question. Now, in this now, we can, since it is only the sales mix, it is only the sales mix that changes. So therefore, we have to come back to this and say, what is our CMR calculated before now? What is our CMR? What is our CMR?
0.25.
0.25.
0.25. We have the CMR. We have 0.25. Thank you. 0.25 and 0.5. Thank you so much. Now, right? So therefore, we can have, we've calculated it before, 0.25, and for Q equals to 0.5. Right? So therefore, the mix, the sales mix that change, 160 divided by 120, 200,000 times 0.25 times 0.5. So what do we have here? So what do we have? Class. Hello.
$180,000.
180,000.
Yes.
180,000. So therefore, we can now share this 180,000 to each of the products. To each of the products. What do we have here? What do we have?
144,000.
144,000. What do we have here?
I'll be 56,000 or so.
What do we have?
56,000.
Okay, 56,000. Right?
Okay. Sorry. See? It's 36,000. Sorry.
36,000.
Yes. Sorry.
Thank you. And what the question says is when there is a change in the what? In the sales mix. Class. Now, what is the next one that we were trying to solve as well? Is before we move to the next topic, is on the revised total profit. The revised total profit. Now, class, the revised total profit, is all these ones now. Okay. The revised total profit, right? Am I the one that bring this formula away? This formula. Now, the revised total profit for the revised total profit for the two products, right? The revised total profit as a result of this. Now, class, this is profit, right? And we already have our fixed cost in the question to be what? To be 54,000 naira. What are we looking for? We are looking for contribution. We're looking for what? The contribution, so that we can say contribution minus fixed cost. We give us what? We give us our profit. Right? So therefore, if we want to determine contribution, since it is multiple products, right, we can have a weighted average contribution. Is that also class? We can have what? We can have a weighted average contribution. Class, who is against me in this class? Are we still together?
Yes, sir. We
Are
are
we
together,
together?
sir.
Thank you. Thank you. Now, CVP is logical. Class, if I can want to set CVP question, I can set question for you that CVP, before you think about how you will start, you've already spent like 30 minutes. But when you understand the principle that when variable cost is not given, you can use CMR. When you want to determine the selling price, you can use CMR. That is selling price minus variable cost per unit divided by selling price. When this is not given, you can do a walk back. So once you understand that, I believe you will not have challenge in what? In CVP, right? In the cost volume profit what? Analysis. So therefore, we need to determine the what? The weighted average. Is that not so? We need to do what? Determine. But however, we can still say, okay, since it is contribution, is that not so? Since it's what? It is it is what? It is contribution. You can come back and say, let's determine the weighted. It is for the two products. Weighted average. Weighted average contribution. Don't forget, is for the two products, equals to contribution divided by weighted average contribution or weighted average contribution margin. Weighted average contribution margin, since it is in value. Margin ratio is equals to contribution margin. Can you see contribution margin, right? And we have weighted. So this will be contribution divided by the sales, which is sales. So therefore, what is our weighted average contribution margin? What is our weighted average contribution margin, class? We already have it here to be all this. Is that not so? We already have the weighted average contribution. What is the formula? Weighted fixed cost divided by weighted average contribution margin ratio. And what do you have here? The denominator here. What is the denominator here?
0.30. 0.3.
0.3. 0.3. Class, this is what I use. Weighted average contribution margin ratio. This is weighted average, class. Let me color it. Right? Can you see it? 0. What? 0.3. 0.3 equals to, the contribution is not given. It will be X divided by, what is the total sales value? What is the total sales value? 200,000. Is that not so, class?
200,000, yes.
200,000. That is the total sales for the two products. 200,000. Right? 200,000. Yes, I can cross multiply. Right? I can do what? I can cross multiply. Let S represent contribution. I can, when I cross multiply, you can have X equals to 0.3 times 200. Class, what do you have? What is your contribution, class?
60,000.
60,000. I think someone calculated it to be 60,000, but that your method, I don't know, it look complex for people
That
to
was me,
understand,
I
right?
That
You
was
said?
me. I say it was
Okay,
me that did that.
Okay, well done, well done. That makes sense, okay? Makes sense. If you can understand that your method, fine, right? You can understand it, it's fine, it makes sense, right? This is our what? This is our contribution. Contribution, right? And if this is our contribution, our profits, our revised profits will be equals to, the contribution is 60,000 minus our fixed cost is 54,000. So what do we have as our profits?
6,000 there.
6,000 there. So this is the end of CVP. Class, are we still together? This is the end of the CVP question. Please, is this difficult? Now, you want to determine the revised BEP for the two products. It is profit rather. It is profit equals to contribution minus fixed cost. Then you want to determine contribution. If you want to determine contribution, you have to think, and this is multiple products where you can see contribution. You can only see contribution where you have your weighted average contribution ratio. Then you can now think that the weighted average contribution ratio is given to us in the question. We've calculated it already in the Roman figure 1. Therefore, your contribution divided by X, contribution divided by sales, then let S represent contribution. Then you can now apply the formula. Then you have a profit to be what? 6,000. Class, am I communicating? Are we good? We are good, right? Okay, that's fine. That makes sense. That makes sense. We need to move, right? So I gave assignments on this question 4. I think question 4 was tested one of the diets. And okay, I won't say anything other than to tell you that make sure you solve the question. I will check for those who have attempted the question. Well done. Well done. I will check. Please follow the requirements of the question. Right? Please follow the requirement of the question. Right? Follow the requirement of the question. And this is the requirement of this whole adjustment. This is just the requirement. Please, you have to do a walk back. Go and watch the video, the first video under the introduction. I think maybe part 2, you see it there, right? So it is what it is. And this question 5, I'm thinking if we will do intensive on for PM, right? This will be your number 1 question that we will solve if time permits us for the intensive. But please, you see this question 6, you must attempt the question 6. So, right, I will check all your suggested solution immediately, not immediately after the class, because I have strategic case study, right? I have class by 6, right? So maybe after my class or tomorrow, I will check all your suggested solution, right? Now, and that is all about cost volume profit analysis. So in today's class, we shall look at a new topic, which is limiting factor, right? Limiting factor. Now, we are now in decision making. We've been in decision making CVP, right? The activity based costing, right? Now, limiting factor. Limiting factor is another topic in PM you need to understand, right? You need to do what? You need to understand. After limiting factor, we'll move to the throughput accounting. From throughput accounting to relevant costing, from relevant costing to linear program. From linear programming to variance analysis, then I'm done with the classes, right? Because my organ will take the other part of the budgeting and the pricing decision, right? So, limiting factor. The question is, what is limiting factor? When you want to produce a product, right? When you want to produce a product, there are some things that we hinder, that will be a challenge for you not to achieve that objective. If you say you want to produce 50,000 units, or if you say you want to pass your 5 courses at once, right? There are some limiting factor you could face in the process, right? Now, and that is what we call constraints. Limiting factor refers to any resources. The resources could be, you may have a constraint or a limiting factor in sales, right? In your sales unit, we are not able to make a sales unit based on maybe because of the quality. You may have limiting factor in your material. You may not have enough material to produce that demand for your customer. You may have a limiting factor on resources, on labor, right? On labor, maybe you don't have enough capacity, you don't have enough labor workers that will produce more product, and customers are demanding for this, they are demanding for this, but you don't have the capacity, right? And that is limiting factor. What is limiting you? What is saying in order for you not to achieve a specific objective. Now, it could be a single limiting factor or a multiple factor. And this will take us to the linear programming. Linear programming is last, right? When you have a single limiting factor, you use contribution per limiting factor. Then when you have more than one limiting factor, that is linear programming. We'll get there, right? So under the limiting factor, under the theory here, you have a single limiting factor, meaning that you may be given the information of order processing in hours, materials in hours, and labors. You need to test for these resources. Which one of these resources is the limiting factor? Now, what are these steps in calculating a limiting factor? Steps in solving limiting factor. 1, calculate the amount of scarce resources. The T is the limiting factor, right? By comparing the required quantity and the available quantity. Class. Meaning that when you are given a resources, maybe material, labor, material, labor, and others, you need to test for limiting factor. Determine the limiting factor. You need to compare. You need to compare what you have, that's your resources, right? And compare it with available quantity. Class. What it means is that there is what we call required quantity, and there is what we call available quantity. If Rejoice want to produce 20,000 units, it will take Rejoice, it will take material, it will consume 20 kg of material. That is a required quantity that it will use, that it will take Rejoice to produce 50,000 units. That is what, meaning that what is the quantity that you will use to produce the 50,000 units? That is the required quantity. That is what you need to determine, or you need to calculate. If we just want to produce 50,000 units, what is the quantity? How many quantity will it take Rejoice to produce the 50,000 units? Equally, how many hours will it take Rejoice to produce the 50,000 units? That will give you the required quantity and the required hours. And now, what is the available quantity? Available quantity is where that the quantity that you know that this is what you have. If, for instance, you want to produce 50,000 units, you need 50 kg of material. And what is available? What is available may be 40. If 40 is available, meaning that you don't have enough capacity, you have to produce a lower unit that will match the 50 kg, that will match the what? The 40 kg. That is available. What you have available in the what? In the store. Right? Now, calculate the contribution of each of the products. That is the contribution per unit. How do we determine contribution per unit? Your sales minus your variable cost. Your selling price per unit and your variable cost per unit will give you the contribution per unit, right? We give you, or if you want to determine the, what is it called? Total contribution. It may be the sales minus your variable cost. We give you the contribution, but what we need usually is contribution per unit. because we need to do what we call contribution per limiting factor. So after you calculate your contribution per unit, you need to calculate the contribution per limiting factor. That is the scarce resources. Contribution per limiting factor means that what is the limiting factor? Where the limiting factor you identify, what is it? You have to calculate the contribution per limiting factor for that. We'll get there. Then when you calculate the contribution per limiting factor, you do what we call ranking. Of course. Of course, you have to do what? You have to rank the what? You have to rank the risk. Minutes. Okay. You have to comment on this. Sorry. You have to do what? You have to rank. When you rank, then you do what we call allocation, or what we call optimal production mix. Depends on what is given, what was stated in the requirement, either allocation, either production mix, either maximum production, right? Then we will now determine the profit based on the production mix. Having explained this, we need to move further and explain limiting factor analysis. I've explained this before. Provides us with a maximum profit. Profit maximization product mix within the assumption made when decision. So you can have a quantitative factor should also be borne in mind. When you are determining your limiting factor, it is not usually the figure, as well as you need to look at the customer demand, the quality, the customer loyalty, and all that. Now, what are the assumptions? In limiting factor, these are the assumptions, and these are the limitations, right? Now, another thing you need to know under the limiting factor is what we call shadow price. Class, we have limiting factor with minimum guarantee, limiting factor with special order. But once you understand minimum guarantee, the special order is gone. We'll get there. Now, the question now is, what is shadow price? Shadow price. Now, shadow price means that an additional increase in the what? In the scarce resources that will result to what? That will result to an increase in the what? In the contribution. Meaning that when you increase a scarce resources by 1 unit, the additional unit you will get, it is what the additional contribution that you will get, it is what we call shadow price or a dual price. The requirement may tell you, right, to calculate what? A shadow price. Whenever there are limiting factor, there will be opportunity costs. These are benefits forgone by using limiting factor in one way instead of the next profitable way. The shadow price of resources, it is internal opportunity cost. This is the marginal contribution towards fixed cost and profit that can be earned for each of the limiting factor that is available. Class, the additional marginal contribution, the additional marginal contribution you will get for increasing a limiting factor, a scarce resources by one, is what we call a shadow price. We will look at that as we move, right? We'll look at it. Now, the shadow price only applies where the extra unit of resources can be obtained at its normal variable cost. The shadow price indicates the amount by which contribution could fall if organization is deprived of one unit of the resources, right? Meaning that it is still two ways. When you increase a scarce resources by one, the additional contribution that you will have as a result of increasing that by one is what we call a shadow price. At the same time, it also indicates that if we decide not to add this one, what will happen? What will happen? There will be a decrease in the what? In the unit of resources. Shadow price is also known as dual price. Shadow price is the additional contribution that will be made if 1 kg of scarce resources is made available. Of course, that is shadow price. Now, knowledge of the shadow price of a resources will help managers to decide how much it is worth paying to acquire another unit of resources. Of course, that additional units, that scarce resources that you increase by one, it will give you additional contribution. That is shadow price. Now, it will not give the manager to say that, oh, to decide to decide how much it is worth paying to acquire. And so it's now showing that, okay, this is the amount. Meaning that if you increase labor, you have labor hours to be 100. Then you now increase it by one. That is 101. Now, you have the shadow price. Now, it will not give the managers to know that, yes, this will be the worth of the scarce resource. If you increase that scarce resources by one, this will be what? The worth paying to acquire another unit of what? Resources. Finally, note where the question states that the company is committed to producing a guarantee minimum. That is minimum guarantee. That is limiting factor with what? Minimum guarantee. We'll get there. This must be considered before allocation is made. Meaning that when a company have a special order for a particular set of a customer, or there is a minimum guarantee that they must satisfy product A before product B, you have to allocate that resources first. You know, you want to produce 50,000 units. Then it will take you will use 50 kg. But the material that you have that is available is 40 kg. If you want to allocate that 40 kg, you must give a priority to what we call a minimum guarantee customers, or a special order to some special customers before you now allocate the balance. We will get there. That will be our next illustration. After we look at the normal limiting factor, we look at the limiting factor with minimum guarantee. We look at limiting factor with shadow price. Now, where there is a single product, a single limiting factor, we use contribution per unit, meaning that under the theory of limiting factor, you usually have a single limiting factor. When you have a single limiting factor, you calculate your contribution per unit. You calculate your contribution per unit based on the steps before you arrive at the contribution per unit. Then you will now do what? Have your contribution per limiting factor as our basis for decision making. But where the limiting factor are more than one, we use linear programming technique. That is another approach. When you have more than one limiting factor, you have to use what we call linear programming. We'll get there. So class, do you have anyone that have question before we move to an illustration? Please don't forget these steps, right? The steps in solving limiting factor. One, you need to do what? You need to calculate the amount of resources. That is, you can screenshot this before you get the material. That is, determine the limiting factor by comparing the required quantity and the available quantity. That is where you will now determine which one is the limiting factor. Is it material? Is it labor? Is it other processing in this sales unit? All right. Now calculate the contribution per unit of each of the product. Next, you calculate the contribution per limiting factor. Then you do your ranking. After the ranking, you do what we call allocation, or you prepare what we call a production mix. After that, you determine the profit based on what the production mix. Class, are we still together, please?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Okay. So if this is established, so let's quickly look at this question together. Okay. This can someone read? Who will read? Who will volunteer to read?
Required. What
Okay.
products what product mix would maximize the company's products? Show resulting profits per product and in total. Question
Okay. Okay.
Okocha Limited.
Just hold on. Sorry. Sorry. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Now, what product mix would maximize the company profit? That is, you should determine a production mix or optimal production mix, or they can use another, which other name they used to use. Maybe when we solve another question. Showing resulting profit. You've determined the production mix, then you need to show the profit for each of the products. Right? For each of the words, for each of the products. So we have the question here, Okocha. Please, can you see my screen very? Can you see my screen? Okay. Okocha Limited. Okocha Limited manufacture 3 products: X, XY, Z, that have the following costs. So we have the SYZ. This is what you have here is material costs, because this can never be value. Can you see? This is 230 naira per unit, and this is 12 naira per unit, and this is what 275 naira per unit. We have the direct labor, where we have grade 1, and grade 2. Okay, minutes. Okay, where you have the grade 1 and grade 2. Plus, this is labor. This is labor hour per unit, right? This is labor hour per unit. This is 75. This is labor. This is okay. sorry, this is 75 naira. This is 75 naira per unit. Class, this is the cost. All this, what you see here, are the costs. Are the cost per unit. This is 75 naira per unit. This is 55 naira per unit, 25 naira per unit. When you see something like this, these are the cost per unit. Can you see it? These are the costs per unit. We have the selling price, the budgeted sales in units. Can you see it? Right. So please, have you screenshot this the step? Have you done that?
Yes.
Okay. Okay. So we have grade 1 labor. This is, you can see that, class, this is 75 naira per unit. And this is grade 1 labor is paid. This is hourly rates. Class, this is hourly rates. Hourly rates. If you work for 1 hour, I will pay you 50 naira per hour. Per 1 hour. And this is grade 2. This is 30 naira per hour. If you work for 1 hour, I will pay you 30 naira per hour. This one here is the cost, labor cost per unit. Don't forget, anything that has to do with per unit, we goes with unit. This we goes with hour because it is 50 naira per hour, right? And this is what grade 2 labor hour. Labor. On being informed of the draft sales budget, the production manager pointed out that there would only be 50,000 hours of grade labor, of grade 1 labor available. Plus, this will be the available hour. Can you see? This for grade 1. And overtime working was impracticable. The available, what is available? What they have? Available hours that they have is 50,000 labor hour that is available for grade 1. Meaning that whatever thing you want to produce, what we have, the labor hours that you need to work is just 50,000 hours. Now, the available grade 2 labor hours was up to 120 hours in the coming year, meaning that this is what we have that is available. This is the available hours, meaning that they have to work, because that is the organization policy. That is what they have. They have to work towards the available hours. So we will now determine the mix, right? But before that, we need to follow the step. So what is the name of the company? Okocha Ltd. This is a suggested solution. Step 1. Right? Step 1, we have to compare. Is that not so? Now, sometime in the question, for you to know, they've given us that this is what they have that is available. Right? Some question they will give us the one of labor and the one of material. So when they give you the one of labor and material, you now need to check which one of these two is a limiting factor. But since we're given only available hour to be labor, So we need to test. So it means that labor is the limiting factor, but we need to test for it. We need to check what make it, why is it a limiting factor, and we need to test for it by calculating the first step, right? Now, the first thing we need to do, we need to compare these available hours with the total numbers of hours that we take the company to produce 16,000 units. We need to compare available hours with what we take the company to produce 28,000 hours. Right? That is, what will be the numbers of hours? That is hours required. Then you will now compare it with hours available. Then you now see that, oh, truth, labor is the limiting factor. Right? Now, we can start with, now the first thing you need to do is, let's say we have, okay, product X and Y, right? Product X, Y, Z. Now, we need to determine the hours that we take them to produce 16,000 hours, 16,000 units, so that we can compare with available hours. Class. Now, we already know that labor is the limiting factor, but we have to show it because they only give us the available hours for labor. In some question, they will give you for labor, they will give you for material. Then you now need to test which one of these two is the limiting factor. Now, how do we determine the hours that we take them to produce 16,000 units? Now, in some question, they will give you the hours per unit. Once the hours per unit is given, hours per unit will goes with the unit. Then you can multiply and get your what? And get your total hours that will take you required. Total hours that will take you to produce 16,000 what? 16,000 units. But in this question, what we're given is 75 naira per unit and 150 naira per unit. What can we do? What should we do now to get labor hours per unit? Class, how do we determine the labor's hour per unit? Class, labor hours per unit. Per unit. Labor hours per unit. Class. So how do we determine the labor hours per unit? Nobody.
The number of hours multiplied by the total number of units produced.
The total numbers of hours. So how do we get? We need to get hours per unit. If you get hours per unit, you can multiply with budgeted sales units. We give you the total hours that will take you to produce 16,000 units. But how do we determine the hours per one unit? So what you need to do in a situation like this, right? Always you will use the cost. Can you see the cost? Right? The cost. Divide 75 naira per unit by the 50 naira per hour. We give you hours per unit. So let's pick it one after the other. 75 naira per unit, grade 1. In some question, the labor hours per unit will be given to you. You just multiply by the budgeted unit so that you have your total hours. We'll move from there, right? We'll move from. But in this question, you have to determine the labor hours per unit. Then you now multiply by the units so that you have your total hours. So grade 1. What do we have for grade 1? We have 75 naira per unit, right? Divided by what is the grade 1 labor? What is the hourly pay? 50 naira, right?
Yes, 15 naira.
Okay, 50 naira per hour. Class, you can see naira can cancel naira. Naira will cancel naira. Is that not so? So what do we have here?
1.5.
No, it's not 1.5. 1.5 what? 1.5.
1.5 units per
1.5
hour.
units.
No, it's
1.5
hours.
hours.
No, hours per unit. You get
Yeah.
1.5 hours per 1 unit. So we do the same thing. What do we have here? Can screenshot the question, please, so that we'll first. Please quickly. The next one, we are still in grade 1, right? We have 55, 55, and 25, right? So we can have 50, 55, divided by 50. Let me just say 50 naira per hour, right? So what do we have here? What do we have?
1.1
hours per unit.
hour per unit.
Hours per unit. Okay, next we have
25.
25 divided by 50 is for grade 1 now. We are still in grade 1, right? So what do we have here?
0.5 hours per unit.
Okay, 0.5 hours per unit. In some question, this hours per unit will be given to you. Do you get? It will be given to you. But in this question, we need it. Yeah. So what do we have? We have 0.50, 0.5 hours per unit, right? Hours per us, hours per unit. So in some question, right, this labor hours per unit will be given to you. You don't need to stress yourself. But in this question, if it is given to you, you just multiply this. This is 1.5 hours per unit. Just multiply it with the budgeted units. If you multiply with the budgeted units, we give you the total numbers of hours we take them to produce that unit. But in this question, we have to determine the labor hours per unit because the labor hours per unit is not given. But what you need to do is that you use your labor cost to divide the hourly rates. Are we still together, please? So the second one, are we still together?
Yes, sir.
The second one is we have 15, the hourly rate. This is the hourly rate. Can you see the hourly rate? 30 naira. So we still use the cost to divide the rate, right? So give me a figure. What is the cost?
15 naira
15 naira per unit,
per unit.
right? So divided by, what is the labor hour
30 naira.
30 naira per
hour? 30 naira per hour. So what do we have? What do we have here?
0.5 hour per unit.
Okay. 0.5 hours per unit. So we do the same thing with this. What is the cost? What is the labor cost?
45
45.
per unit. 45 naira per unit.
Okay, 45. All right, this will be 45. Then divided by 30 naira per unit.
1.5 naira. 1.5 hours per unit.
1.5 hours per unit. Okay. So lastly, what do we have? What do we have here? 135, right?
Yes, 135.
You can screenshot it now, please. Just screenshot so that we can move faster, right? Okay, thank you. So 135 divided by 30 naira per hour. Right, 30 naira per hour. Okay. So what do we have? We divide this, what do we have?
4.5 hours per
4.5
unit.
hours per unit.
4.5 hours per unit. So I haven't calculated this, so we can calculate the required what is it called? Okay. That will just save our time, right? That will just save our time. Okay. Total hours. Total hours. Okay. So we have to pick it again. Or how will I present this thing again? Okay, that's fine. So grade 1. So we have X. X is 1.5 hours per unit times, what is the unit produced? What is the budgeted unit? What is the budgeted unit, class? Hello? What is the budgeted sales unit? Oh,
16,000.
16,000 for X, 28 for Y.
3,000 units.
thank you. This is their budgeted production and this is their budgeted sales. When you see something like this, it's still the same thing because that is what they budgeted for and that is what they said they will budgeted for at sales as well. Right? So we want to get the total hours required. Class, we want to get the hours required. Then you will not compare with what available hours. Class, this is 1.5 hours per unit, so it will goes with units. So we have 16,000 units. So what do we have here? What do we have?
24,000.
No, 24,000. 24,000.
4,000
24,000 units.
24,000 hours.
24,000 hours. You've multiplied, class. This is 1.5 hours per unit, meaning that it will take them 1.5 hours to produce 1 unit. and they want to produce 16,000 units. So definitely they will use 24,000 hours. Class, am I communicating, please? Do we get that? Hello, do we get that?
Yes, sir.
Okay,
Yes, sir.
okay, that's fine. So the next one is 1.1 hours per unit times how many units? What is the budgeted? What is the budgeted?
28,000 units.
28,000 units. 28,000 units. So what do we have?
30,800 hours.
30,800 hours. Meaning that if they want to produce 28,000 units, it will take them 1.1 hours per unit for 1 unit to produce 28,000 units. To produce 1 unit, it will take them 1.1 hour. Then if you now want to produce 28,000 units, it will now take them 30,800 hours. That is the hours required to produce 28,000 units. So what do we have? We have 0.5
5
hours per unit times, what do we have? What is the
15,000 units.
15,000
15,000 units? So what do we have?
7,500 hours.
1,500 hours.
500 hours. Okay, what is the total? We had, let me put, okay, let me just quit it here. Total. Okay, total. I know that side will not. Okay, total. If you add everything together, what do you have?
62,300 hours.
56,300 hours.
62,300 hours.
Okay, 62,
2,000.
62,
300 hours.
to produce all the units, to take them base for grade 1, right? Let me color it. So the next one, grade 2, right? Grade 2, to take them 0.5 hours per unit, we still multiplied by 16,000 units. So the next one is 1.5 hours per unit times 28,000 units. The next one is 4.5 hours per unit times 15,000. So what do we have? What do we have? Quickly, class.
Y is 8,000 hours.
8,000 hours.
For Z, it is
Sorry,
67,000.
Z. X. The first one.
X is the 8,000 hours.
Z is 7,500 hours.
7,500 hours. So what do we have here?
For Z, it is 67,500 hours. Y for Y.
67.
Is 42,000
67.
hours.
What now? Oh, what
Sir,
is
please,
Y?
for Y is 42,000 hours.
Y is 42,000 hours.
42,000. So what do we have here? Z.
67,500 hours.
500. 67,500
hours.
hours.
Total is 117,500 hours.
117,500
hours.
117,500 hours. So add these two together. Add the 16. So what is the total hours required? Total
179,800 hours.
Hours required. Total hours required is what? Sorry.
179,800 hours.
179,800 hours. So, they give us the available hours for each. Sorry, they give us the available hours for each. Now, is that not so? They give us available hours for each of the products, Abi?
Yes.
Yes.
Oh,
Yes.
okay. Sorry. They give us the available hours for each of the products. So let's use that. Let's use that. Sorry. Let's use it to compare. Okay. So I can come here and say the total. Let me copy this. So this will be total required hours, right? Total required hours is this. So what is the available hours? Available hours for grade 1. What is the available hours? What is the available hours?
50,000.
52,000 hours.
No, 50,000.
50,000 hours. Okay, let's confirm this. If it is 50,000 hours, okay, 50,000 hours, that is available. Right, we are still in step 1. Oh, I didn't mean they give us these hours per unit. We will not have to calculate our labor hours per unit. We'll just multiply. Then we compare with what we have as available. Now, class, for you to produce 16,000 units, 28,000 units, class, it will take them 62,300 hours to produce 16,000 units, 28,000 units, and 15,000 units of grade 1. But what they have that is available, you know, if you do pass yourself now. Is that not so? You have to work with what we have as available. So what is the difference? What is the difference? So the difference is what we call
12,300 hours.
12,300
hours.
shortfall of 12,300 hours. You don't even need to tell me. I already know hours. You don't even need to tell me. If for me, because I need to test for grade 1, grade 2 as well. You don't need, but you need to test for grade 2 as well. Right? This is to tell you that grade 1 is the limiting factor. Labor under grade 1 is the limiting factor because the total required hours is greater
And the total
is
was available.
available hours. right? That is the limiting factor. But of course, we have to check for grade 2 as well. So we can say that this is our limiting what? Factor. Because that is the bottleneck. Because how can we have available hours to be 62,300 hours and total required hours to be 62,300 hours, and the available hours we know if you do pass ourselves now, is that not so? So that is what we call short for, right? So available total required hours for the second one is, so this is how you use to text them should in case you were given available hours for material. Class, you are given the available hours for material, you have to test it. It will give you 2 kg per unit. Multiply the 2 kg per unit with the unit. We give you the total kg. Then you can now compare with the available hours to check, is it labor is the limiting factor or the material? We'll still solve more questions as we move. We Madam Fumi, please mute your mic. Available hours. So what is the available hours? 120
120,000 hours.
for grade 2. That is 120, right? 120,000 hours. So now you can see that what is the difference? You can see that we still have enough ourselves. Is that not so? We still have enough hours. What is the difference, Sef, that we have enough hours? 2,500 hours. We still have enough hours. We still have enough hours. So therefore, grade 1 is the limiting factor because the total required hours is greater than the what? The available hours. So therefore, grade 1 is the what? Is the limiting factor. Am I communicating, please? What is the next step? Calculate the contribution per unit, right? Contribution per unit, right?
Yes.
Yes.
Step 2. Determination. Please mute your mic. Determination of contribution per unit. Please mute your mic. Oh. Emmy. So we have X, Y, Z. So we have the nearer sign. So selling price, right? So what is the selling price? So can you see what is the selling price, class? This is the selling price, right? Are we there?
Yes.
Okay. That is the selling price. Don't forget, you want to calculate contribution per unit. It will be your selling price. Selling price. Price. So what is this first selling price? Figure.
560.
560 naira per unit. Next.
310 naira per unit.
310. Next.
510 naira per unit.
510. Variable cost. What is our variable cost in the question? We have the variable cost. We have direct labor, right? Class, we have direct labor. This is it. So we have direct
We
material. Is
have
that not so?
direct material.
We have direct material, we have direct labor. Is that not so? Is that not so, class? We have direct material,
Yes.
we have direct labor. Variable costs per unit. I can say less variable cost per unit. Less variable cost per unit. Less variable cost per unit. Okay. Okay. So material. So what is the material?
230 per unit.
230 naira per unit. What do you have here?
12 naira per unit.
12 naira per unit. What do you have here?
17 naira per unit.
17 naira per unit. So we have labor, right? You have grade 1. You have grade 2. Please always use everything. Or so what do we have here? Grade 1.
Sorry,
Grade
for
one.
material is not 17.
Ah,
It's 275. It's 275 naira per unit.
okay, 275. Who can I confirm? Oh, don't worry,
It's
you guys should put it.
275.
Yeah, it's 275.
275. Okay, grade 1.
Grade one, we have 75 per unit.
75.
We have 55 per unit for Y,
55.
then 25 for X and Z
25.
rather.
So what do we have here?
For grade 2, we have 15,
15 naira per unit. What do we have here?
45 naira per unit,
45 naira per unit. What do you have here?
and 135 naira per unit.
135 naira per unit. Now, should in case you have maybe your selling price, should in case your selling price is not given, maybe they give you sales. You know how to divide your sales divided by the sales unit, right? Divided by the sales unit will give you the selling price per unit. Is that not so? Is that not so? Class, is that not so?
Yes.
Your total sales divided by the sales unit will give you the selling price per unit. So whichever way, if they give you everything in total, in value, you can get your total contribution divided by the units so that you have your contribution per unit, whichever way, right? Whichever way you have it in the question. So after the, do we have any other variable cost? No. So what do we have? What is the contribution per unit? Contribution per unit. What is the contribution per unit?
For X is 240 naira per unit.
240. What do you have here?
We have
240.
198.
198. What do you have here?
₦75 naira per unit.
75 naira per unit. So what is the next step? The next step is to determine the contribution per limiting factor. Is that not so? Contribution per limiting factor. That is the next step. Contribution per limiting factor for the scarce resources, which is the limiting factor. And we already identify grade 1 as our limiting factor, right? So therefore, since grade 1 is our limiting factor, what you need to do is that just bring the hours per unit, because they say contribution per limiting factor. Is that not so? So just bring grade 1 hours hours per unit. Bring hours per unit of the grade 1. So what is the hours per unit for grade 1? For grade 1, we have 1.5 hours per unit. Is that not so, class? Hello?
Yes.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
We want to determine contribution per limiting factor. And our limiting factor is this. Is grade 1. Is that not so? Is grade 1. We want to determine contribution per limiting factor. Contribution per limiting factor means that contribution divided by the limiting factor. Right? And even if the limiting factor is kg, is 5 kg per unit, you bring the material here and say kg per unit. Right? So since it is the limiting factor, you just bring the hours per unit. So this is 1.5 hours per unit. Next, we have 1.1 hours per unit. Then we have 0.50 hours per unit. Because we need to determine contribution per limiting factor, and this is the limiting factor, grade 1. So therefore, you now have contribution per limiting factor. So contribution, if you want to determine the contribution per limiting factor, you can say this is A. You can say this is B. Then you now say A divided by B. We give you contribution per limiting factor. Kajiko? A? Akwe Hausa?
For X 160.
I dey speak Hausa when I know here. Emmy. You say? So we have A divided by B. Right? That will give you contribution. So what do you have?
160 hours.
No. It is not 160 hours. This is Naira. This is in Naira. Right. Okay,
Okay,
now let me show.
160 naira.
No, I'm sure I'm coming. The first one, wait, I'm coming. The first one is you have 240 divided by, come, let me create more space here. Okay. Okay. Yes. So you have 250. You have 250, right? Let me reduce this. You have 250. You have 240. 240 naira per unit. I just want every one of you to understand this thing. This is 240 240 naira per unit divided by, you have here, you have 1.5 hours per unit plus now. Okay, it's not 1.5 hours. Okay. So now this hours here, this per unit here, you can see this is per unit. Per unit here, cancel per unit here. Can you see it? Per unit here, cancel per unit here. Can you see it? Are we still together, please?
Yes.
Per unit here, cancel per unit. If you cancel per unit, you are left with 240 divided by 1.5 hours.
Okay,
All right.
160 naira per hour.
Thank you. 160 naira per hour. Class, am I communicating, please? Are we getting it? Are we still
Yes.
together? Okay. Okay, that's fine. Can you see it? It is not magical. It is contribution per limiting factor. Per. If you just see per one, you say, okay. It is contribution per unit divided by the limiting factor. This is the limiting factor here. Because I don't have enough space, I would have write limiting factor. This is it. Just bring, whether it is hours per unit, whether it is kg per unit, bring it. Then you now divide. And this is how you will divide it. So next, what do you have here?
119 naira per hour.
180
naira.
180 naira per hour.
150 naira per hour.
Next,
150 naira per hour.
150 naira per hour. Right? And this is our contribution per limiting factor. After that, what is our next step? What is our next step?
We rank them.
Rank the products in order of contribution.
No. Okay, rank. Okay. Oh. Thank you. Sorry. I was thinking you said allocation. I was like, Shafe skip will step me. We skip this step. Okay. So we need to rank. Right? We need to do what? We need to do some ranking. Right? Rank. So which one will come first? This will come first, right?
Yes. Y.
Product Y first.
Y first.
Yeah. So
Y
next,
product X second.
And product
second,
Z last. Third.
Z third.
So next, we do allocation, right? That is step what, Seth?
Step 5.
That's step 5.
Step 5. Allocation, so that we determine the production is what? Allocation. Now, I want to finish this class 5. Yes. Okay. Allocation. So we have to allocate allocation of the scarce resources. Now, what is the scarce resources? Is the grade 1. What do we want to allocate? Is grade 1. Why? Because grade 1 is the limiting factor. Now, we need to make sure keep me now 4 hours, no be only 4 hours, now 10 hours. See, I beg. Like this, I'm having a headache. And I still have.
You promise for 4 hours.
Today, I promise 4 hours.
Yes, sir.
Yes, so.
Now. I beg. 4 hours.
That's what you said. You said 4 hours.
We don't forfeit our. We don't stung ourselves. 4 hours. Then we go.
We have not even started. This is the appetizer. We have not even gone anywhere today.
Continue. Okay. Continue.
On our 4 hours, we shall stand.
Okay. So, what are we allocating? We have to allocate the scarce resources, which is the limiting factor, because we only have 50 hours, but it required 62,300 hours. Meaning that we have to allocate these 50,000 hours. Go get as good. So, meaning that they don't have enough capacity to produce all those units because we need to work with the available hours. So that is what we want to allocate to each of the what? To each of the products. Now, available hours. Available hours. So let me say units production units available hours is 50,000. Now, allocation, we allocate based on the ranking, right? We'll allocate hours based on the what? The ranking. So which one is coming first? Product Y, right?
Yes, product Y.
Now, we will now say, how many hours will it take product Y to produce 28,000 units? How many hours will it take product Y to produce 28,000 units? How many hours will it take?
We have 30,800 hours.
30,800 hours.
Thank you. 30,800 hours. You can see why it is very important. So we now say allocation. Allocation. Allocation to Y. 30,800 hours. To produce how many units?
28,000 units.
20. Is it 28,000 or 24?
28.
Okay, 28,000 units. So we'll give product Y first based on ranking.
Full production.
Right? So what is now the available hours? You will now allocate the balance. What is the difference?
19,000
Available
hours.
Available for X.
We have 19,000 hours.
19,200
hours.
19,000.
19,200.
200.
200.
It's 19,200.
Okay. So we have to do allocation. Which one are we allocating to?
X.
Allocate X. Allocation to X. So how many hours will X use to produce 16,000 units? How many hours?
24,000 hours.
24,000 hours. 24,000 hours. Oh, it's 24,000 hours.
Yes.
Okay. That means that you can see we have. Can you see? Yes, thank you. We have what is available. And it will take product X to produce 16,000 units. You need 24,000, which means that we don't have that capacity. So we have to do what we have. So we are allocating the 19,200 that is available. Right? So the question now is, how many units is it going to produce? Will you use this 19,200 hours to produce? You will now do 19,200 hours divided by, what is the hours per unit for X? What is the hours per unit for X?
1.5.
1.5 hours per unit. Hours per unit divided by the hours per unit of X. We give you
12,800 units.
So hours per unit. Hours per unit is 1.5
hours per unit.
Hours per unit. You divide it.
12,800 units.
Now, can you see? Thank you.
800
Can you
units.
see? Can you see that hours cancel these hours here? Hours here. Then you are left with units. Hours cancel these hours here. You are left with units. So what do we have?
12,800
12,800 units.
units.
12,800 units. Right? 12,000. Okay. 12,800 units. So that is the production. This will be, it will not be production mix. They can call it optimal production. Anyone? For Y, you only have the capacity to produce, to do for X and Y. This will be 28,000 units. This will be 12,800 units.
I think you've taken it for each other. I think for X
Oh,
it's 1200 units.
thank you, thank you. Your face show, your shoes shine. Abi, your face show, your shoes shine, Abi.
Yes, sir. It is 20,000 units. 20,000.
28,000 for Y.
20,000.
Okay, 20,000. Okay. I'm now seeing 2 star. Now hunger. I need to eat. So next. What's next? What next? What is the next step?
Determine the profit maximizing budget.
That is the most. That is the profit based on the production units. Step 5, because the question says we should determine profit, right? Step, you can determine the profit. That would be your assignment. Oh, okay. Oh, my tired is another thing, but that's one. Let's quickly complete this part, right? So determination of what? Profits. Is that also determination of profits? We can have determination or calculation of profits. So we now have X and Y because that is the profit we are calculating for. We are calculating our profit based on our units. Based on our units. We don't have for the other products. Right. So you want to calculate your profit. They say profit per let me don't stress myself, I beg. They say determination of profit per product. Let me use this. Let me just use this. That one will take my time. Or what should I use, self? It will take my time. So class, in our next class, you can do the profit. It's already 5 p.m. You can do the profit, right? You can calculate for the what? The profits. So this is already 5 p.m. You can calculate the profits. Just calculate the profit based on this. Multiply the selling price times this. Multiply the selling price per unit times this. The material cost per unit times this. The labor cost per unit times this. Right? So what else? What else? Okay. So you calculate the profits. Leslie, what happened?
Sir, you know we have already done the contribution before. Can we use the Can we multiply this production mix with the contribution?
Okay. That's fine. That is a very good one. That is very smart one from you, right? That makes sense. So just use. Okay, thank you. Oh, that makes sense. Yeah. Just use the contribution. We already calculate. We have contribution already now. Contribution per unit already. So use what you have here. After your contribution per unit, then multiply 240 times the unit. You have we only have for X and what? X and
Y.
Yeah, X and Y. So 240 times the unit, 198 times the unit. Then it will give you the total contribution. Then minus your what? Your fixed production overhead. Is that not so?
Yes.
And don't forget that fixed production. Okay, let's quickly do that. Let's quickly do that. Meet your mic. Oh, 240. 240 naira per unit times 12,800. So what do we have here? What do we have here? Oh,
3,072,000 naira per unit.
no. Total you use your 240 naira per unit to multiply the 12,000 units. 3 million. It will give you in value.
3,072,000.
Okay, 3,072,000
naira. So what do we have here? This is 198 times 28,200 units. So what do we have?
5,544,000 naira.
5,544,000 naira. Your fixed cost does not vary according to what you produce. Fixed cost does not vary based on your levels of production. I hope you all know all these things. Your fixed cost does not vary with your levels of production. So what is the fixed cost per unit? What is the cost per unit? What is the fixed production cost per unit? Fixed production cost per unit is what? 150 naira per unit.
150 naira per unit for X.
So I will multiply 150 naira per unit times what? Times which unit? 150 naira per unit times what?
1,000 units for the budgeted sales.
Thank you. Then 75 naira per unit times 28,000 units. It does not vary according to what you produce. So 150 times 16,000. What do you have? 150 times excuse me.
We'll have 2,400,000 naira.
2,400,000.
So the unit is 16,000 units.
Not 15.
Okay. So what is the cost of this per year? So what of this? We are now
150 times 28,000.
which 150 again? Why is what? Is why 150?
75 times
We
28,000.
have
75.
2,100,000 naira.
Okay. Times 28,000 units. What do we have?
2.1 million.
2,100,000 naira.
2,100,000 naira.
2 million. 2,100,000 naira. So you can determine the profits by yourself. So thank you so much, everyone, for joining. And do have a lovely week. Thank you. I think I need to go, right?
Yeah, thank
I need to
you.
go. Yeah, thank you. Thank you so much, everyone.
Let's
You
God
get,
bless you.
I
yeah.
hope, I hope
You hope what?
sir.
You hope what?
You are recovering better too, because I heard you're like kind of under the weather.
Yes. Then I'm still having some. It is well. It is well. It is well. So
You get better.
yeah,
Well,
thank you. Yeah, thank you. So thank you so much, everyone, for joining, and
Bye.
enjoy.
Thank you.
Have a lovely week. Thank you. Stop.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you.